Have you ever been on Instagram looking at photos of cars and thinking to yourself, man, what do I got to do to make my photos look that great? Well, I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm Jordan, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to use Adobe Photoshop Express, which you can download from the App Store for free to make your photos sing. But before we get started, I need you to do me a favor. If this is your first time visiting the channel, be sure to smash that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and if you do find the video useful, be sure to like and comment. That way, we kind of show up in this algorithm a little bit sooner. So with that said, I'm Jordan, and let's get started. Okay, so opening the app, I've selected a photo that I took about a month or so ago, and the photo is taken along this very kind of rural road that connects the little farming community to the highway. And the thing I like about this particular road is, one, there's not a lot of traffic. Two, the overall scenery is great. I mean, you have these surrounding barbed wire fences. The road itself is not pristine. It's kind of rugged. I mean, you got loose gravel, cracks in the pavement. I mean, just very, very rugged. I'm like, this might be a good spot to, take a photo. So I came down the road and swooped in, got my angle, got out of the car, took my photo, got in, drove off. And I went and took some other photos throughout the city. But when I got back home, I got to going through my photos, and when I hit this, I'm like, this one has the potential to be a really, really good photo. And so when you look at the photo, you'll see the way the car is angled. The car is actually sitting pretty center in terms of its positioning to the roadway behind it, right? And so I was like, you know what, this one's going to be a good one. And before I was using, in terms of the editor for the photos, I was using an app called Avery. And it got the job done for the time. But once I came across Adobe Photoshop Express, I was like, this thing is amazing. And I've done several photos, but what we're going to do in the video here is we're going to take this photo and we're going to make it amazing. Okay. Now, for the sake of this video, I'm only going to be doing manual adjustments, meaning I'm not going to be using any of their predetermined filters. Okay. We're going to do this strictly adjustment by adjustment. It might take us, 7 minutes or so maybe to do the edit. But with that said, let's just get started. So in the first, you'll see we have the photo. If you look at the bottom, you'll see there is an icon that we can do for the manual adjustments. And the adjustments begin on the light exposure. And what I like to do here is, any of these adjustments, I like to first set it, see what the photo looks like with it all the way reduced and then all the way maximized. So we'll move the slider to the left, and obviously the photo's way too dark. Then we have, full blast on 100, and that's too bright. Now the problem I have with the photo, if you set it back to 0, you will see that the photo is actually quite dark by nature. That day, the light, there was not any real sunlight coming through the clouds. It was very just overcast, and ideally, it really wasn't a great day to shoot photos. But with this app, we can kind of make those adjustments. So we need to kind of slide this up to where we're getting some brightness out of the car, but we're not getting too bright that we're casting too much like a white, brightness to the photo. So let's try to dial this back. It looks like 18 is probably a good spot, and then we're going to move over to contrast. And let me just kind of put this in here that I don't know the exact definition for each of these adjustments. I just like to see what they look like visually. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So contrast, we'll move it all the way down. The photo's way too gray. Bring it up. Now the car is really starting to pop, but the thing I don't like is if you look around, like the wheels, it's getting a little too dark. So what I need to do is just kind of start dialing this back. That way we can kind of see the wheel a little bit more. So let's see here. That's a good little spot. Now we're going to play with the highlights all the way down. Still see a bunch of gray. And, for the sake of the highlights, full max is pretty good. Let's see what the shadows look like. So all the way down, the wheel areas, the grill, way too dark. We bring it all to the other side. Now the car is way, there's just two kind of red orangish, you know, so we need to dial this back just a little bit. We'll set it to about 40. We might have to come back and adjust this one later, but 40 looks to be just enough where we're, in terms of the shadows, we're not hiding the wheels. Now we're going to start adjusting the whites, and of course, you know, this is going to pertain like to the sky, this little top area of the roof line, the hood. You know, that's where we're going to likely see the improvements here. So all the way down, and then all the way up. And you know, to be honest, I'm going to bump this back just a little bit. Now we get to play with the blacks, and just kind of like earlier with the shadows, if I bring the slider too down, the car is too dark in those very areas. Bring it right, there's too much brightness. So I do want some darkness. There we go. Looks about 30. Temperature. This one I rarely ever use. I haven't found a usage case for it in terms of editing car photos, but you'll see here marked all the way down it's too blue, and obviously to the right it's too kind of yellowish. I'm just going to leave this one at 0. I have yet to, either it's not that I don't understand it or I just haven't found a good usage case. And like tint, it's kind of like the same thing. You know, you're adjusting kind of these hue kind of colors. So this is another one I prefer just to leave at 0. And vibrance. This one we'll probably have some fun with here. So all the way down it's gray. And then when you bring that right, boy, those greens and everything sure come out. But that's kind of the problem, though. So we'll look at the background. You see the pasture there? Well, that's too green. If I take it all the way out, it's too dark. Middle, I mean, there's nothing really going on there. So we need to bring this up to where we have some green. But the other thing we have to take into account is that if we put too much, you'll see that the pavement kind of has a green tint to it. I'm going to adjust this back to where that's still kind of grayish. Saturation. Zoom this photo back out. All the way left, too gray. All the way right. Now we have too many colors popping on the saturation. So again, we need to kind of dial this back to where we're still getting some of it, but the pavement is still traditional looking in terms of the gray colors. Now clarity. Clarity is actually my favorite adjustment. And the reason is that it gives the car a shine that's similar to when that car has been waxed, detailed, you know, ceramic coated. I mean, that real shine. And to give you an idea that we're to kind of focus on this, we'll zoom in here on the door. I'm going to take it all the way off. You'll see the car starts to blur. But when I crank this thing to 100, you can really see the reflection. So we'll go back to where it started, which is at 0. Crank this up. See how that reflection just kind of gets pulled out of that photo? I mean, and it's really, really looking good. Dehazing. This is another one I don't really ever use. All the way down is too bright. All the way right is too dark. I mean, is there probably some usage in it? I mean, we could probably keep it about there, but I don't want to get too crazy with it. And the same can be said for fade. We're not interested in fading this photo. The grain settings, and like I said, if you go back on the door, you'll see when I crank this all the way up, you'll see all these little dots start to appear. We don't want that. We don't want that grainy photo. We want that to be smooth. This next one, I'm not sure how it's really pronounced. Won't even give it a try. Save myself the embarrassment. This one is kind of like, like when you have like a portrait, how you want kind of like the outside to be brought in with it. Well, I don't prefer to use it all that much. In this case, I'm just going to use about 15 roughly. Now we're going to move over to sharpness. Now the sharpness, I tend to focus heavily on this area, and when I'm referring to, if you see where the black ends on the hood and then it goes from the space then into the red, that's kind of where I tend to focus this, because you'll see right now it's all the way set to 0. But if I crank this all the way up, you'll see there's like this gray line that'll kind of like appear or enhance on that hood line. I don't like that. I really don't. And I might keep this about 25 just so I have a little bit more sharpness. But as far as the overall color, you know, the overall look of the car, it's looking good. The reduction of luminance. Again, with this one, if you look at the edges, like if you look at the trim, the rubber trim around the window near the logo, watch how this area changes when I crank this all the way up. You see how that kind of smoothed out? I'll take it back out so you can see the transition. This is with it off. So you can still see there's a curve of the body, but when I crank this up all the way, that curve kind of goes away. Everything gets kind of smoothed out. And yeah, then we'll zoom it back out. And then reduction of the color noise. This one, I don't think I use that much. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm not seeing too much change. Take it back out. I do see some change along. Yeah. If you look here on the door, you'll see that the line right below the door handle. So this is with it all the way off. This is with it all the way up. And to be honest, I'm just going to keep it right about 50. And that should get us by with what we want to do in this video. All right, so now we basically have a finished product, right? And one of the cool things that when you are done with your photo, it's good to see what it looked like before and then what it looked like after, right? And the way to see this is if you go to the top right corner of the app and you go a couple buttons to the left, you'll see this one that has a split down the middle. When you tap it, you'll see what the photo looked like when you started. No filters, no adjustments. Tap it back and you'll see how everything looks when it gets applied. So yeah, I mean, it went from a boring photo to one that just sings. And so that's it, y'all. I mean, that's the finished product. So from here, we can throw this thing up on Instagram, you know, and just get all the likes and the comments that we can get. So I hope this is giving you a way to enhance your photos, really make them pop. I do want to do some more videos on this particular app because there's so many other features this thing can do, but we'll save that for another video. So with that said, I'm Jordan signing off. If you like the video, be sure to like and comment. And if you want to be part of the family, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. So until next time, take care, everybody.